That guy back there, that's my friend Moandain Designs. Moandain's a great dude, and he recently did a video where my light is dying. That gentleman back there is Moandain Designs. He's a really good friend of mine, one of my favorite channels here on YouTube, and he recently did a video about games that helped him. And the idea of it was kind of like games that impacted his life in one way, shape, or form, and Moandain, being who he is typically very understated and very controlled, and he did about 3 games in his video, and it was a fantastic talk about games that really mattered to him and really impacted his life. And I wanted to do my video response to it, and I wanted to do my own take on this. Me being me, I couldn't just do 3, because as I always say, if it's worth doing, it is worth overdoing. So, I'm bringing you kind of a chronological order of 7 games that really impacted my life. We're going to kick things off on the NES. First one up for me is Super Mario Bros. 2. Now, it would be easy for me to say the original Super Mario Bros. It would be really easy for me to say The Legend of Zelda, but I think the one that really impacted me, that really helped me, that really changed my life was Super Mario Bros. 2. And why is that? I've told the story on the channel in the past, but one of the things that Super Mario Bros. 2 really mattered to me about was the fact that this is the first game I ever bought with my own money. My mom worked at a camera shop, and I went to the store with her one day and I worked on their window display, and I got a paycheck for it. And I saved up my money from that and my allowance, and we went to Toys R Us and I picked up my copy of Super Mario Bros. 2. Now, this is a game that I love. It's something that I have loved almost all of my life. And as much as I enjoyed the original Super Mario Bros., this one to me is a better game. I think it's better designed. I think the sound is better. I think the gameplay is better. I think the look of the game is significantly better. And I don't really think anyone can argue with that because the game is so darn good. Is it as good as Mario 3? No, I don't think it's as good as Super Mario Bros. 3, but it is something where I looked at it, and as someone who was a huge fan of the original Super Mario Bros., I was at a fever pitch when this one got announced and when this one got released. It was something that I had to have, something that I worked for, and something that I earned. And I'm so happy that my friend James gave me this complete in-box copy after I had lost it many years ago. This is one that he added back to my collection, and I thank him for that. This is such an important game to me, something that really did change who I am and the way that I look at what games are. Before that, there wasn't something I really concerned myself with. It wasn't something where I looked at and I said, well, these cost money, so I need to spend the money on them. I need to save the money for them. They were always gifts. I was young. I didn't have to worry about money. It was one of those things where it was like, yeah, I want it, so I'll get it. And then I worked for this one because my mom told me if I wanted it, I had to earn it. And I did. And that absolutely changed who I am as a gamer and the way I look at things. All right, we're going to stick on the NES now, and we're going to look at a game that was really integral in making me want to be part of the game industry and made me want to be a part of it and made me want to be someone that made games. And that is my favorite NES game of all time, Mega Man 2. Now, why is Mega Man 2 so important to me? It's important to me because this was the first time I looked at it, and I remember seeing it, I think it was an issue of Nintendo Power, it might have been something else, where there was an issue of Nintendo Power that released, and there was actually a study from the designer of Mega Man showing how he designed the levels, and how he actually built things, and how he designed things to be in the game. And that made me want to make games. It made me want to do something in the industry. I swore to myself, when I first saw that, and I was already in love with the game because I had rented it a bunch of times, I saw when I looked at the way he designed games and the way he approached game design, I said, I'm going to make a Nintendo game one day. And it was something I stuck with. And you don't often get to fulfill childhood dreams or keep a promise to yourself from childhood, especially something like that can be seen as a pipe dream or can be seen as something crazy, but something I held on to for at least 15 years. And when I got the opportunity to work in the industry, I took it. And it was something that completely changed who I am as a person and completely changed my life. I still work in software to this day. It's all because of Mega Man 2. If I hadn't done it, if that game hadn't spoken to me, if I hadn't seen that particular magazine article showing how he designed things using graph paper, I never, ever would have made the jump to work in the industry. Now, if you've been on the channel for a long time, you know that I'm a huge fan of role-playing games. And the first one I really played was The Bard's Tale 2: The Destiny Knight. And as much as I enjoy that game, and as much as it was kind of impactful and kind of groundbreaking for me, the RPG that really changed my life that really helped me was Final Fantasy. And this one to me was something where it showed me that really deep story and really kind of meticulous planning of how the game was designed and how the game was laid out, and that high fantasy was a concept that could work in video games was something that was important to me. And it wasn't something where I looked at it and I said, you know what, because of this, I like role-playing games now, because I already liked them. I liked the Bard's Tale. I had played Bard's Tale 2 and 3 at this point. I know I had played Ultimate at that point, but Final Fantasy was the first one that really showed me that it could work on a game console and not just on a computer. I needed this to show me what the possibilities of video game playing was on a console. It wasn't just platformers. It wasn't just games like Zelda. I could have these deep, rich, compelling storylines, and it's all because of Final Fantasy. And that led the way to loving games like, eventually, like Skyrim. Loving games eventually like Persona 5. That all stems from here with the original Final Fantasy on the NES. It was a magical game. It was a magical experience. It was something that I truly loved and I truly treasure, and I still go back to it to this day. It's not my favorite in the series by any stretch of the imagination. That is always going to be Final Fantasy VI, but I think it's a brilliant title, and it was important. It really did change who I am, and it really did change the way that I look at video games. This one I don't have physically, so I'm just going to be showing you some footage on top of this as I'm talking, but I don't really talk about PC games often on this channel because it's just something that never really gets views. You guys are more interested in modern stuff and retro stuff on console, so that's kind of what I stick with. But PC gaming was something that I really heavily focused on when I was younger, and one of the most important games to me that, again, kind of like Final Fantasy, showed me that story could be important was The Secret of Monkey Island. And the reason The Secret of Monkey Island was important to me wasn't because the story was deep, although it was brilliant. It wasn't because it was some kind of huge epic adventure, even though it kind of was. And it was because it showed me that comedy was a medium for storytelling in video games. It didn't have to be dark. It didn't have to be some kind of epic quest. It could just be a silly romp. It could give you a laugh. And Monkey Island led to an appreciation of comedy in all kinds of games. Stuff like the humorous aspects of Toe Jam and Earl, stuff like the Sam and Max series. When I think of video games now, when I think of stuff that is important to me and matters to me, it's stuff like comedy writing. It's stuff like The Secret of Monkey Island, where it showed me not only a different type of video gameplay with point-and-click adventures, it showed me that comedy was feasible and was an option for video gameplay. I don't think I would have enjoyed stuff like Monkey Island as much if I hadn't been exposed to a lot of comedy growing up. Like, that was something that was always ever present in our home. We always had comedians playing, either my grandfather's classic comedians like Red Skelton and stuff like that, or all the way up to living with my mom and hearing George Carlin for the first time. It was something where comedy was important to me, and seeing that it could happen in a video game and be executed brilliantly well like it was in The Secret of Monkey Island just blew my mind. It was awesome. It was a great game, and it was something where I not only developed a love for comedic situations in video games, I also developed a love for point-and-click adventures that lasted for a very, very long time. Even to this day, I still enjoy it. All right, jumping forward a generation now, and we're gonna move up to the Sega Genesis, and you probably already know where this is coming from if you've been on the channel for a while, but the one that really changed everything for me was the original NHL hockey from Electronic Arts. I'm a huge fan of ice hockey. It's my favorite sport. And to see ice hockey faithfully recreated on a 16-bit console, something that I had never really seen before, because despite the fact that we had amazing ice hockey games on the NES, like Blades of Steel, like ice hockey, it wasn't a one-to-one translation of what the sport was. There was a lot of missing pieces. The rules weren't the same. The look of the game wasn't right. There weren't always the right number of players on the ice. To get that in NHL hockey from EA was just amazing to me. It was my favorite sport for years, and I never really thought that it could work as a video game until this. And it's been my favorite series ever since. Like, I still collect NHL every year. It's something that I make sure I have. I have the entire NHL series to this point, and I love it. Now, I've said it before, it's fallen off. It certainly has. It's not quite to the quality it used to be, but it's still a series I love. It's still a series I enjoy, and it's still something that's just cool. You know, like, I just enjoy it. I'm a sports gamer. I enjoy sports games. So to get something that was faithful to what I loved and what I enjoyed was really awesome. Now, I talked about Final Fantasy earlier on the NES and how that one really kind of changed the way I looked at RPGs on home consoles. And up until the PlayStation, Final Fantasy VI was my favorite video game, and it's still up there. It's top 5 for me by far. But my favorite video game released on the PlayStation 1, and that is Suikoden 2. Now, Suikoden 2 to me was something where I was blown away. I didn't expect a game this deep. I didn't expect a game with this much emotional resonance, and I didn't expect a game with this much opportunity for discovery and trying to find something new in a game, because I'd never played anything where you could have that many characters available to you. There's over 100 characters to recruit in the Suikoden series. I looked at the way it played, and I was just blown away by not only the quality of writing, but the blending of gameplay options and the mini games and just the overall presentation and the music and the gameplay was fantastic. And I still enjoy it to this day. Like, I cannot wait for the HD remasters from Konami next year. It's something where I'm like eagerly anticipating that game coming out because I want to be able to play through them again and take them portably with me on the Nintendo Switch. I'm excited to have those games back. Even though I've played both Suikoden 1 and 2 hundreds of times, I play through Suikoden 2 every year. Still excited to have it back, still excited to get a new opportunity, and really, really excited for people that have never had the chance to play it because the cost on the game has always been incredibly prohibitive. It was something that really opened my eyes to writing and complexity in gameplay styles and kind of a blending of gameplay options and not just sticking to one particular type of gameplay. There was a million different ways to play the game and a million different options in the game, and it was fantastic. I loved it. All right, one that is a little bit later now, a little bit more modern, and this one is on the Nintendo GameCube. And the reason this one changed my life kind of goes back to our talk about Mega Man 2, and that is NCAA Football 2004 on the Nintendo GameCube. If you remember, when I first saw those design documents and those kind of level designs in Nintendo Power, I said to myself I was going to make a Nintendo game one day. And I did. I kept that promise to myself, and that was NCAA Football 2004. It's the first game I really worked on in the industry. I'd worked on The Sims Online before that, but the one thing I wanted to do was to work on a GameCube title. I wanted to deliver something for Nintendo. And I not only got to deliver this, I got to deliver numerous other ones as well. It was something where I got into the industry specifically because it was a dream come true. It was something that I had to fulfill. And I took a chance and I was able to do that. And it is, to this day, the most rewarding decision of my life was to make that choice to work in the industry, to go after the gig because I wanted to fulfill that promise to myself. It was and is amazing. Knowing that my name is on something out there, something that I am passionate about, something that I appreciate, something that I enjoy, I can't really describe how amazing that feeling is because it's a legacy at that point, if that makes any sense. It's not much of a legacy by any stretch. I'm just a QA guy, but it's my legacy, and it's something that I'm proud of. And it was, like I mentioned, I'm not in the video game industry anymore. That ship has sailed, but I still work in software quality assurance. I still work in software development, and it's all because of, not only because of seeing that thing about Mega Man 2, the level designs, it's because of this game right here with NCAA Football 2004. I appreciate it, I love it, and I'm thankful for it. All right, and last one for me, the last game on this list is a very modern game. It's from the previous video game generation, and it was one that showed me that cinematic games were possible, and games that were heavy into movie and heavy into film influence didn't just have to be button presses, kind of like the Metal Gear Solid games became, which have never been my favorites. I appreciate the artistry, but they're not really fun for me to play. But Uncharted 4 changed all of that for me. Now, I love PlayStation Studios games. I love the fact that stuff like the Sly Cooper series exists and Ratchet and Clank and stuff like that, but it wasn't until Uncharted 4 that I really noticed and really felt like we could make something cinematic, make something film-worthy. It's kind of a masterpiece. It blew me away. And this is the first one in the Uncharted series I ever played. I hadn't played 1, 2, and 3 at this point. So getting this on the PlayStation 4 was just life-changing to me. This was something that made me buy a PS4. I had been aware of the Uncharted series, and I had been appreciative of the Uncharted series, but I had never played it until I got my PS4. And I was just floored by how incredible of an experience it was from top to bottom. The delivery system of the game, the emotional impact, the characters, the writing, the dialogue, the voice acting is, as a voice actor, this is like just oh, so top tier for me. Like I got to meet Nolan North at Siege last year, and it was one of the most important interactions of my life, was being able to talk to him and thank him for Nate Drake and thank him for his portrayal of a character that just is amazing. And it was and is amazing. It's just an unbelievable video game, an unbelievable experience, and just a brilliant series. I know a lot of people overlook stuff like Uncharted in favor of things like God of War, and that's fine. You know, that's your prerogative. I have no issue with that. But for me, as someone who grew up an Indiana Jones fan, who grew up a fan of epic cinema and epic adventures on film, Uncharted 4 like just delivered that in spades. And every game in the Uncharted series does that. Everything from Uncharted 1 all the way up to Lost Legacy, including Golden Abyss, like all of those games are magnificent. And this one just happens to be my favorite. So there you have it. Little view inside my head, a look at the games that matter to me, the games that changed me, the games that were important and impactful. And I hope you enjoyed it. Check out Moandain's channel. I'll have a link down in the description. I really appreciate him not only doing the video, but mentioning me in it. And it was awesome to kind of look back and see the things that changed me. Let me know in the comments down below what video games changed you, what video games impacted your life, what ones are important to you. I'd love to hear about it. Until next time, remember to play more games, stay square, and take care. I'll talk to you soon.